Hello, I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And things have become much clearer just in the last hour or so, and so I can do a much simpler and more straightforward debunk to help you when you're scared, if you're scared of these Russian drones. So it's become very clear that Russia actually intended for them to go into Poland, and that Russia is saying that none of their drones have gone into Poland, so they're denying that they had anything to do with it, which is what they often do. But it's very clear that they did. So I'll just show you the evidence first, and then I'll go and explain why this is not something to worry about at all. So this is the evidence. So first of all, this is one of the drones that landed in Poland on the ground, and this is a kind of shelter so that other people don't see what you're looking at. And so there's you see kind of plastic around its nose, and that's not something that the investigators put on top of it. That is its fuel tank. It's a collapsible fuel tank. So it has a fuel tank at the back. It also has a fuel tank at the front. So it has double the amount of fuel. And now this is not the big one that carries 50 kilograms of explosive. This is a very small decoy drone, and it's got 2 fuel tanks, and it's got hardly anything else except just those 2 fuel tanks. And so the objective is just to send something as far as they can in Poland. Now, some of them did get to Poland, but the other ones, but the ones that got really far in Poland presumably were the ones with with these extra fuel tanks. And so this makes it this is one bit of independent evidence, open source evidence that shows that clearly Russia intended to send some drones sending a record distance into Poland, such as wouldn't be possible with their ordinary German drone, and wouldn't be possible even with their decoy without these extra fuel tanks. So that's what happened there. And Zelensky also in his speech, he said that it's clear from the fight past that it was deliberate. So now the important thing about this is that, of course, Zelensky knows perfectly well exactly what Ukraine has been doing by the way of electronic warfare. And so he's telling us that they weren't diverted by electronic warfare, and they were deliberately sent to Poland. So that's very clear evidence. So, this movement was not an accident or a mistake, it was deliberate. They've been tracking the movement of the drones, and he said that many of them flew through Belarus, and so how could they have got electronic warfare diverting them in Belarus? That doesn't make sense either. So it's a calculated Russian activity. Now, so what's the effect of this going to be? It is not going to be that Putin knows very well that sending lightweight drones without any explosives to fly deep into Poland and not aimed at anything is not going to lead to Poland attacking Russia. All it's going to lead is to Poland shooting down the drones. So this is what we expect going forward. And the thing is, this is normal. It's very abnormal for Poland to let drones go flying through, which it's been doing since 2022. Was the first drones that I think from Belarus, I'm not sure, some came from Belarus, some came from the south. They went flying over, the ones from Belarus, I think they came flying through Polish territory, and others went through Romanian territory, and then they went into Ukraine. And then we started doing all sorts of extraordinary things like these, going out of Ukraine, doing a big loop around in Poland, then going back into Ukraine again. And all sorts of strange paths that go flying through Poland a lot. And Poland has just been saying, well, we're not going to shoot them down. But then some of them started falling in Poland, and then this last time, 10 of them fell in Poland. At that point, Poland said, we've got to protect our citizens, so we're just going to do what is normal in a war. If you're neighbours to, and there's a war going on in the countries just next door, then the normal thing to do is just to shoot down anything that flies out of the war into your airspace. It makes no sense to just let bombs go flying bombs in the air to go flying through your airspace, and they haven't no right of passage. They haven't got they didn't file a flight path with Poland and say we want to fly a bomb through to your village there. So they've got absolutely no right whatsoever to be there. And the normal thing is to shoot anything down that goes flying through your airspace if it doesn't belong to you and you haven't given them permission. So that's what Poland will be doing from now on. And then Zelensky has said that he's going to give permission. He's going to give technical advice and training and equipment to help its neighbouring countries to shoot down these drones. And it's only a tiny fraction. So out of 400 that go into Ukraine, then only 10 of them flew out into Poland. So it's just a tiny fraction of what Ukraine is shooting down every day that its neighbours will want to shoot down. So Zelensky is going to advise them and help them and send them some technical equipment and intelligence. So Ukraine follows them very closely so they can say to Poland, look, this is the exact track of this drone that is flying towards you. Do I have the drone pass here? I'm not sure. No, I don't. Yeah, I'll probably pop that into here. So, so hopefully that helps you all be a lot less scared about this. Just understand what's going on. So now let's go and look at a few other little things, details. So this is Russia, of course, just denies it. It's a very common tactic for Russia. It just says nothing's happening, and that's its default thing that it does whenever anything awkward happens. Then it just says nothing. We didn't do anything, and nothing's happening. It just denies it, and so that's just normal. That's nothing to be worried about. That's just typical of the Kremlin. And then, what is Article 4 all about? Well, I talked a lot about Article 5 in the previous video, but so yeah, I'll just briefly talk about that. So Article 4 is just everything is defensive. NATO is purely defensive. It is never about attacking Russia back. It's never about retaliating. It is just doing whatever is sensible and normal as a careful, cautious people to protect your own citizens. That's the only motive of Article 5. And so, in this case, the sensible, cautious, careful thing to do is just to shoot down the drones. The ones that go the long distances especially, they're just completely harmless. They can't even have an explosive on board. All their weight is taken up with this extra fuel tank. So just shoot them down. And then you shoot down the ones that, if there are any larger ones, and there was one that blew up a roof of a house, presumably closer to Ukraine, and that would be the German drone. And of course you've got to shoot those down as well. That's not an acceptable thing. So shoot those down as well. And so under Article 4, Poland does not need to do Article 5. Poland would only do Article 5 if it didn't have the equipment to shoot down the drones. However, some of its neighbours need support. So Estonia, for instance, might be rather more limited. So in this case, was Ukraine's drone, ended up in Estonia just a week or two ago. And it just flew out of the war, and it obviously wasn't intended to go there. It just got confused and ended up in Estonia. And so this is a thing that happens a lot in wars. And the first very dramatic one I gave the example yesterday was from Cyprus, was from the Syrian war, and one of their air interceptors ended up flying 230 kilometers into Cyprus and hit a mountain there. So this sort of thing happens in wars anyway, and so Putin's just kind of pretending that he's just simulating. He's had these drones that got flown out accidentally, and he thought, well, all these drones are flying out accidentally, let's send some out deliberately for whatever his bizarre reason is. Now, I don't know if I talk about it here. It's quite difficult to understand Putin. So he's not mad. What it is, I think, is that he's very focused on internal Russian politics and internal Kremlin politics. So he does things that make no military sense whatsoever. And so, for instance, it made no sense to, he started bluffing and saying and he very successfully got Finland and Sweden to join NATO, which they would have never done. And he could see where it was going. He just kept going with his bluffs until eventually they were forced to join NATO. I mean, that's just not a sensible thing to do from the point of view of military strategy. It must be something to do with his own internal politics that he does that. And so this is another example. I mean, it's not a sensible thing. How does it help in military strategy? How does it help Russia to force Poland to shoot down its drones? What's the point in that? It doesn't make sense, does it? So it's not a military thing. It must be something to do with internal politics. And Professor Philip O'Brien, he said, I remember earlier in 2022, he's just given up in trying to understand what Russia does in terms of what he studied all his life. His working as an academic. He studied past military campaigns and logistics and so on, and he knows a lot about military strategy. And he said, all this that I know and I've learned, there's no point in it. I can't use it to understand why Russia does what it does, because what it does isn't based on military strategy. So all through the war, it's been like that. He's been doing things that harm him in the war, harm his soldiers, harm his strategy, make it harder for him to invade Ukraine. And this seems to be another example of that. So and then this is going to obviously help Trump, and he's going to become much more aligned with NATO, and they're all going to be working together to find a way to end this war eventually. So this hopefully will help end this war, because it's going to make things much stronger for Zelensky for negotiating and so on. So I see this as being quite positive, really, because it's and one example I forgot to put in my debunk. I'll add it if I remember, I'll add it. So there's a tweet from Viktor Orban, who is the Prime Minister of Hungary, and he has been very opposed. He was the one who is keeping Ukraine out of NATO, and for a long time was keeping Ukraine out of the EU as well. He's he's become more flexible on that, and he's been very much in Putin's side of the argument here. And he came out very robustly criticizing Putin, saying it's not acceptable to send drones into Poland. So Putin he seems to be doing the same thing he did with Finland and Sweden, which were neutral, and they were very resolutely neutral. They didn't want to take any sides between NATO and Russia, and he forced them into NATO. Now he seems to be doing very much the same with Hungary, and with Viktor Orban, who would be quite a difficult person for him to force it to aligning with everyone else. So, but he seems to be trying to do that. That's he's not trying in terms of this is his goal, but it seems to be the effect of what he's doing is pushing Viktor Orban, rather surprisingly, into the same camp as everyone else, and all protesting about these drones, saying you shouldn't do this. So there's no way that anyone in NATO is going to start attacking Russia. That makes no sense whatsoever. No way that any of Ukraine's allies. It might well expand the coalition of the willing, and it serves there's nothing to serve Putin's, and so it's something to do. My best guess for all these bizarre things is it's to do with internal Kremlin politics, and unless you are one of the people who actually are in the Kremlin yourself, it's probably almost impossible to understand why he did it. And I think that's the best explanation of this. Nobody outside that kind of very complicated world where sort of mirrors and people saying the opposite of what they mean, sort of just hints and so on, and propaganda and things you're not allowed to say and so on. Then this for some reason makes sense. I think that's what's going on here. So yes, I should add that Viktor Orban tweet, and yes, this shows the number of. So you've got the drones that are attacking Ukrainian cities. Now this does not mean that Russia is winning this war. These drones are absolutely useless for winning the war. They're pointless. They just land on Ukrainian cities. They don't help Russia to advance 1 inch along its front line. And Russia is putting more and more effort into these pointless drones. Again, it's another example of these things that don't make any military sense. and Putin thinks he should do it for some reason. But he's not, it doesn't mean he's mad. He's not going to do anything that is harmful to his regime. He's not going to do anything that is harmful to his wealth or his personal health. He's just doesn't seem to be committed to the war in any military sense. And that means that he could also end it very easily. He could just say, I've ended this war, and hooray, we've had victory. He doesn't, he just doesn't seem to be thinking in terms of territory, except in terms of politics, internal politics. So that's how I read it anyway. So there's nothing to be worried about. And as I talked before, but I'll say it again so you won't have watched the previous one. So Article 5, as I explained, is just about, many of you won't have heard the previous one. So Article 5 is just about whatever you need to protect yourself from being invaded. So for instance, right now, Estonia needs some help in shooting down drones. It's going to get that help anyway, but suppose it wasn't going to get that help, then it could trigger Article 5 and say, look, I need help shooting down spare drones that fly into our country, and then the others in NATO would rally around and help it. And that's what Article 5 is about, just about defending themselves and protecting their citizens. And it's always focused on protecting the front line of NATO and protecting the citizens of NATO. And that is their prime objective, and that's everything that they do under NATO, under Article 5, is to do with that. If they do something that is not with that objective, then that is not Article 5, and that is nothing to do with the organisation of NATO, and that is something individual to that country itself, like when they do foreign wars and things. None of that is NATO. So, and then just to explain about the escalation ladder. So as you can see, there's no way this can escalate. There's nothing. All that's going to happen is that it's going to become routine for Poland, for Estonia, for Latvia, to Lithuania, and Romania, all the neighbouring countries, Hungary possibly too, if some end up there, and Slovakia. Any of these countries, if the drones end in these places, just become routine for them to just shoot them down, and they will work together to make sure they've got a kind of unified protection, so they can all shoot down the drones. Those are all the neighbours of Ukraine and of Belarus that I just mentioned. And so they will all be working together to. So from north to south, it's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. See if I can get it right. Is it? I forget which comes first of Hungary and Slovakia. I think Slovakia, then Hungary, Romania, and then it's Moldova, of course. And those are the countries that border Ukraine. So getting to know a little bit of this geography just because of reading these maps over and over again to help with these debunks. So now I've got a picture in my mind of what it's like. So they will all be working together to make sure that they shoot down all the drones that go into their countries. Now, I just want to explain again just this. I said it in the last one, just to say it again here. So this is an idea of how very far away shooting down drones that fly out of a war into your neighbouring war into your country is an absolutely normal thing to do. It's absolutely expected. And how very far away that is from nuclear war. So you talk about an escalation ladder, but it's not allowed to go up. It's allowed you to keep on going down. If you ever get onto it, everyone's objective is to go down again. So it's not a ladder where you get on the first step and you go, okay, I'm start up this ladder, let's go one on one, up faster and faster and faster and reach the top. That's how the ordinary, how the average person imagines it. That it takes 1 week, 1 year to get to the first rung, and then you say, okay, I've started up this ladder, so next one will be next minute, next will be in the next day, next one next hour, next one next minute, then in a few seconds I'll be at the top. That's not how it works. It's the very opposite. So for instance, when Pakistan shot down Indian jets, they're both nuclear powers, and India had used its fighter jets to fire missiles across the border into Pakistan, and then the normal military protocol would be to immediately fly away so as to make sure you're not going to be shot down. But India thought it was close enough so it could stay there and just keep a close look at what was going on. And what it didn't realise is that Pakistan had these Chinese fighter jets with the Chinese air-to-air systems, and the Chinese air-to-air systems were rather better than India had expected them. Pakistan is really the only country that China supports militarily with its own technology at high levels of technology. And there's others with low levels of technology, but Pakistan is the only country. It doesn't support Russia, it doesn't support North Korea, it doesn't support India, but it does support Pakistan. So Pakistan is the only experience that China has of its fighter jets in combat is through Pakistan and these border conflicts. So Pakistan shot down these 3 Indian fighter jets, and then so both sides learnt from that, and India learnt from that. We must never do that again, and never linger when we're within reach of these Pakistani fighter jets, because they've got more reach than they seem. So that was it. The 3 fighter jets were shot down, and both sides learned their lesson. And then not long after, a week or 2 after that, there was a ceasefire. But that didn't escalate into anything. And they just, there's no point. It's not going to help India in any way whatsoever to try and attack Pakistan more because it shot down these fighter jets. Generals don't think like that. Wars aren't done like that. It isn't like trying to do more damage than the other side. You've got objectives you're trying to achieve, and you try to achieve them with the means you've got available, and at the same time you want to keep your population safe. And that's a general's way that you fight a war. So this idea that you would want to go up and escalate that makes no sense whatsoever. You never do that. So they're always going down. So I hope that helps you to be a little bit more understanding. And basically, they're human beings. Generals are human beings. Even leaders too are human beings. And they're not kind of computer game characters or evil villains from a movie or anything like that. They're just normal people that happen to be in that position, and with an awful lot of self-control if they get into a position like a general, or what they call impulse. What is it called? I've forgotten the name. I've used it in my last video, but I've forgotten it now. Impulse control. Yes. So now I've got these things here. So it's not going to be a NATO country firing anything into Russian airspace. It's just shooting down things that came into its airspace. And so a little bit more of that Article 5. So I used this example from 9/11. So the only example we have of Article 5 actually used in practice is from 9/11. And the invasion of Afghanistan was not done under Article 5. That wouldn't be permitted under Article 5 to invade another country. So what was done under Article 5, there were 8 measures. There was a radar air patrol over the United States. There was a sea patrol of the Eastern Mediterranean. There was an agreement on intelligence sharing. There was clearance for military flights related to terrorism over the United States. And then the other 4 were a little bit more techy. Increased security for US and other facilities, replenishing the Allied assets, and clearance for military flights over the US. And I seem to have left out one. I'm not sure what the last one is. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I better just pop that up. What's the 4th one? Assurance to allies which are maybe subject to terrorist threats. That was already that's the one I've left out. Yes, I'm not sure I left that out. So there's assurance to allies that might experience allied terrorism threats. Yeah, that was the 4th one. I think I had that written down. I must have erased it by mistake. I'll put it back in. So I've got that, and I've got the tweet from Victor Orban to do. So as you can see, these are sort of things you expect from Article 5. It's all to do with being defensive. They're all very defensive things. And it's never about rampaging around and trying to attack other countries. So this is one of the biggest misunderstandings of Article 5. And so I hope you understand this a little bit better now. And that the papers about, the reports about how people misunderstand Article 5, including the press, of course. But you can read a couple of these, they'll help you understand a bit better. So, and then I've got some links for you to read. I won't go into talking about them because I've talked about them before. I suggest you click on those if you're scared of a world war. So update to that graphic. I've got the Viktor Orban thing, and I've got what else have I got to do? What was the third one? I'm forgetting now, but I'll remember when I rewatch this or when I stop and think. Anyway, so I hope you all understand. Let's end on that graphic. So the outcome is just that Poland and its allies will just shoot down any Russian drones in the skies they would have from day one of an ordinary war, and the war continues before, because it's normal for neighbours to a war to shoot down straight drones in their skies, and it's actually bizarre not to do that. So I hope this helps you all to be a lot less scared and to start understanding what is really going on here, and why experts saw this and see it's nothing burgers from the beginning. In a sense, it's not a nothing burger. It's very significant in some ways, but it's nothing to do with a world war or a larger war. It may indeed lead to peace more quickly.